Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
Ben sat on the edge of the bed, his eyes fixed on his wife, Kathy, as she got ready for a night out. It was one of his favorite things to do, watching her as she prepared herself for an evening of dining and dancing. But tonight, the joy was mixed with a deep sadness. She's more beautiful today than ever, he thought, taking in the sight of her. Tomorrow, Kathy would turn 50. They had a family celebration planned with their 2 children and grandchildren, but tonight was meant to be a private affair, just the 2 of them. As she sat at her dressing table, Ben's gaze traveled over her, admiring her familiar beauty. The same gorgeous hair, the striking face, and the trim figure she'd worked so hard to maintain over the years. And of course, that teasingly perfect figure that had always caught his eye. He felt a swell of pride and love for her, but with it came a heavy sadness. Ben was a practical man, known for his analytical mind, especially when it came to solving problems at work. He was the guy who always had the logical solution, the one you could rely on for a well-thought-out answer. But now, as he sat there, he found himself lost in uncertainty and doubt. Is this the last time I'll get to see her like this? I still love her with all my heart, body, and soul, he thought. What did I miss? How did I not see this coming? Am I really losing her? Do I even know her as well as I thought? The questions weighed heavily on him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. The questions weighed heavily on Ben's mind, swirling like ripples in a pond, never settling. He knew that tonight would be a pivotal moment, one that could lead him down a path of either renewal or despair. The crossroads of his life lay before him, and he had spent weeks preparing for this conversation, perhaps the most crucial one he would ever have with Kathy. For weeks, Ben had analyzed every detail of their relationship, searching for clues that had led them to this point. Signs, once subtle, now felt glaringly obvious, and he mentally listed them, hoping to catch something he might have missed or misunderstood. For months, she's been distant, distracted, he thought. I don't know exactly when it started, but our connection frayed slowly. Our sex life withered, almost disappearing entirely. Then there were her overreactions, blowing up over small things. She even lied about where she had been and who she was with. The dinner for 2 at Mario's, a place I know I hadn't gone with her, that was a red flag I couldn't ignore. These realizations had been hard enough to process, but the last 2 weeks had only deepened his confusion. Seemingly out of nowhere, Kathy had changed. She had become attentive, affectionate, and eager to make love, traits that had been absent for far too long. Now, she listens to my every word. Now, she acts like the perfect partner. What happened? What caused this sudden shift? I couldn't understand why she drifted away months ago, and now I'm at a loss again for why she's come back. Who is this woman? I don't recognize either version of her. The person I fell in love with seems to have vanished. Ben's heart tightened as the thoughts solidified in his mind. Enough was enough. He couldn't let this go any longer without clarity. It was time to confront the situation, to find out what had really happened to his marriage, and to the woman he had loved for so long. With a deep breath, he resolved that tonight, he would get the answers he so desperately needed. Honey, I just want to tell you how much I love you and how much I love watching you. Ben said, you are some kinds of good-looking babe. You know that I love and adore you. I have always loved you and I always will. Kathy looked into her mirror at Ben's reflection with a curious look on her face. Why thank you, Ben. I don't know what prompted you to say that, but I want you to know that I love you just as much. Kathy looked carefully at her husband. I wish I knew what has been bothering him so much lately. It seems the more I try to work at our relationship, the more withdrawn and distant he seems to be. With a mental sigh, she thought, I just have to keep trying. I am not going to give up on us. I just love him so much and I want him to love me the same way. I wonder if you really love me as much as I love you, Ben muttered softly. What did you say, Ben? You've been muttering a lot for the last couple of weeks. I really wish that you would speak up. Looking her in the face, he said, I wonder if you really love me as much as I love you? The look on her face would have been funny in most any other circumstances. The shock of his words left her with her mouth hanging open and gasping for air. With hurt in her voice, why would you say something like that? How could you even possibly think anything like that, much less say it out loud? Maybe you're just trying to be a smart ass, but those words really hurt. Honey, he said, we really need to talk. We have a little time before we have to leave, and I have some things that I want to say and a few questions for you. I don't need any answer yet, but I certainly will want answers before the night is over. Of course you can ask me any questions that you want. I have no secrets from you because you are my husband, my soulmate. Ben almost laughed out loud. The tension in his body was so strong that he felt like a wire stretched to its utmost limit. Kathy, I want you to listen to me carefully. I have a number of questions and a few statements that I want you to listen to, and I don't want any answers now. I would rather that you take the time during our night out to carefully think about your answers. This is going to be a difficult request, but you really should know that the life of our marriage depends on your truthful answers. Oh shit, he wants a divorce. I had no idea things could get this bad. Kathy gasped, but as her husband had requested, she kept her comments to herself. Ben carefully and methodically went through all of his questions and statements about his fears that something was seriously wrong with their relationship. First, you basically cut me out of your life for months. Then for the last 2 weeks you act as though you are my slave, and you go all out to meet my every need, including any need I could want in our bedroom. Your mood swings have been spectacular and totally unpredictable. I have walked around for months as though I were treading through a minefield with your emotions, ready to blow at the least misstep. You have lied to me more than once about where you have been and whom you were with. And the last nail in this old coffin of a marriage has been charges on your card for meals for two, and I'm sure as hell that I wasn't with you. So where am I going with this? I think you are having an affair. I think that your affair has recently ended, and you think that you can leap from his bed back into mine. So the questions are, 1. Do you want a divorce? 2. Do you love him? 3. How many times and how many guys have you been unfaithful with? 4. Do you want to stay married, and if you do, will you continue to have more affairs? And 4. What reason or reasons can you give to me that will convince me that I want to stay married to you? Kathy just sat there. Ben thought that she was displaying tremendous control. He had really laid a major load on her. Kathy wasn't displaying control. She was simply speechless. Ben rose and said, Kathy, finish getting ready and I'll meet you downstairs. We need to hurry or we'll be late for our dinner reservations. Somehow she was able to finish her preparations and meet Ben downstairs. Somehow she was able to get through the evening, and after Ben had reminded her that he wanted no further discussion about his accusations for the rest of their evening, she was able to almost enjoy the time she was spending with her husband. She did drink a little too much, and by the time they returned home, she was only ready for bed and sleep. She was mentally exhausted, and with the alcohol, knew that she was in no shape to continue any discussion with her husband. So, she begged off, complaining of tiredness and a headache. She quickly changed into her nightgown and got into her side of the bed. Fortunately for her, she was asleep in moments. Ben decided that putting off the discussion was for the better and wasted no time getting into bed himself. Again, he had plenty to drink as well, and he was able to drift off to sleep quickly and slept soundly throughout the night. The next morning, Ben rose first, and following his shower, he went to the kitchen and began to make preparations for breakfast. First, he got the coffee started since he knew from long experience that Kathy would be down shortly, as she almost always was, since she was not one to lay for it long in bed. He was sitting at the table when she came into the kitchen. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Would you like some toast or something? Yes, I would like some coffee, Ben. Thanks for the offer, but I don't think my stomach is ready for anything yet. Last night, with all that was said and done, and with the alcohol on top, my stomach would rather just sit this one out. Kathy, last night was my turn to get all this crap out on the table where we can really figure out just where we are going and if we are going to be together or not. This morning is your turn, so I'm giving the floor to you. Give it your best shot, and we'll see what's what. Ben, I have given what you said last night a great deal of thought. I heard you when you stressed the importance of being truthful and upfront with my answers. First, I want you to know that you are the only man that I've ever loved, and you are the only man I have ever slept with since our wedding day. I'm going to try to tell things in the same order as you presented them to me as best I can remember. No, I do not, nor have I ever wanted a divorce from you. There is no lover lurking in the background, so I can easily say that I do not love this person who does not exist. Again, I have never been unfaithful to you since we married, so again, there is no army of men that I have slept with to confess to you. I want to stay married to you more than life itself, and I will continue to remain faithful to you till death finally parts us. That credit card charge was simply a business dinner that you have either forgotten, and worse yet, that I forgot to mention to you. Lastly, the only reason that I can give for you to want to stay married to me is that I love you. I love only you with all my heart, body, and soul. I am guilty of being distant from you for a long time, and you are guilty of being distant from me as well. I believe that we both went through a dry spell in our marriage and just didn't realize it at the time. Recently, I have begun to see again why I love you, and for the last 2 weeks, I have been trying to smother you with my love. It has been my way to reignite some of the fires that we have let almost die out. Ben looked at Kathy's face, gazing directly into her eyes. Kathy met his gaze with a calm face and did not once flinch from his direct look. Ben, You must know that I love you and only you. Ben continued to look at his wife, then his face slowly changed. A look of intense sadness and loss grew and grew until he looked as though he was going to simply fold into himself. Ben, what's wrong? Are you getting sick? Kathy became more alarmed with each passing second. Do I need to call 911? Ben finally began to talk in a low, monotone voice. Kathy, I love you with all my heart and soul. I had hoped that we could finally be honest with each other. I guess that you simply just can't or won't be honest with me. I have given you every chance because I truly wanted to remain married to you for the rest of our days. Ben's voice began to grow stronger and a touch of anger became easier to hear in his tone. I'm certain that I've done all I could do to save our marriage, and I know that you have not done your part. Ben reached into his lap and pulled out a large manila envelope and passed it across the table to his wife. Kathy, I still love you, but love is not enough, and I don't want to be your husband any longer. I have filed for divorce. You need to get a lawyer, and when you do, you can give him or her the number to my lawyer. I no longer want to see you or talk with you ever again. I'm going to pack some things and I'll be gone soon. I should say that I'm sorry, but since I don't believe that you are sorry, I don't see any reason to feel that way. You have made your bed, and you will now have to sleep in it without me forever. Ben rose slowly and went directly upstairs where he began to pack some clothes and toiletries. He had already arranged a hotel room and on the advice of his attorney, had made all financial arrangements necessary to begin to separate himself in all ways from his soon-to-be ex-wife. Mary didn't understand what was happening. She was so stunned by Ben's words and actions that she was unable to function. She simply sat at the kitchen table while Ben completed his packing. When he left, she continued for almost an hour to sit unmoving at the table. Finally, she managed to drag the awful envelope to her. She opened the flap and pulled out the sheets that spelled out clearly the end of her life, as she had known with Ben. Why didn't he believe me? Why would he think all those awful things about me? I know that we can work this out, but he won't even give us a chance. Kathy looked at the paperwork without reading it, and then she noticed that something was still in the envelope. It looked like a photo, so she reached in and pulled it out. It was a photo of her on her hands, and knees getting royally screwed from behind. The photo clearly showed that she was on her own bed and in her own home. The photo also clearly showed that the man was not Ben. A cry escaped from her lips. She realized that Ben knew. She had thought that she had lied so carefully and so artfully about her affair with Phil, and that Ben would believe her. She had ended the affair and was honestly trying to repair the damage she had done to her marriage and her husband. She had not realized then as she did now that the only way she could have saved her marriage was by being painfully and truthfully honest. Of course, since she had been cheating on her husband, honesty and truthfulness were not among her more sterling personal qualities. The hardest truth of all was that her husband was gone, and there was no turning back. Kathy was certain that Ben would never change his mind. Divorce seemed to be the only option he would accept. And with that, she knew she had lost the only man she had ever truly loved. The affair, for all the excitement and passion it had brought, had not been worth even a single moment compared to the time she had spent with Ben. The vows she had made, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others, now felt like cruel echoes in her mind, cutting deeper than she could have imagined. It was only now, too late, that the weight of her betrayal sank in. A wave of guilt and sorrow washed over her, a pale shadow of the pain she had caused her husband. Though she knew it couldn't come close to the hurt Ben must have felt, it was the most profound anguish she had ever experienced. She had betrayed not only Ben, but also their children, their family, and herself. The reality that she would forever be labeled a cheater sank in with crushing finality. No matter how much time passed, she would always carry that burden. She knew her family would never look at her the same way again. In their eyes, she would always wear the scarlet letter, a symbol of her choices, her failure, and the irreversible damage she had done to her life and those she loved. 1 year later, Kathy had her excuses, her apologies, but none of it mattered. The trust, the foundation we'd built over the years, it was gone, just like that. She tried to make it right afterward, begged me to stop the divorce, to work things out. But what was there to work out? How do you rebuild something that's been shattered into pieces? I wasn't about to let her convince me to stay in something broken. I couldn't live like that, constantly wondering, constantly questioning. So, I pushed forward with the divorce. I was done. She cried, she argued, but I stood firm. There wasn't any going back for me. It's strange now, being alone. The house is quieter than I expected. There's no one to argue with, no more pretending. And honestly, I'm better off this way. My companions now are my 2 German shepherds, more loyal than any human ever could be. They don't lie, they don't betray. They're just there, and somehow that's enough for me. Sometimes I think back on how it all went wrong. We had years together, good years, or so I thought. And then, in what felt like a blink, it all unraveled. But what's the point of dwelling on it now? Kathy made her choices, and I've made mine. I've found a new rhythm in life, a quieter one, but one I can actually trust. It's just me, the dogs, and some peace. That's more than I had before. The thing is, I don't miss her. Not the way I thought I would. Sure, there's that hollow space where all the memories live, but it's not painful anymore. It's just there. She tried to fight the divorce, but in the end, I think she knew it was over, too. Now I've got the life I want, even if it's not the one I pictured when we first got married. I've got my dogs, my space, and I don't have to worry about betrayal creeping up on me again. It's simple, and maybe that's all I need. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.